Hi, everyone. Thank you, Nadesh. So I guess I'm going to put things into perspective and talk maybe more about the nature of the regime and where do the real source of power and legitimacy stand today in Algeria. So this is a highly complex and opaque system, but it is a system and it is a regime that went through different periods. We went from an outright authoritarian regime under, from the independence of the country under the death of President Boumediene to a hybrid regime with the opening of the political sphere in 1989. And a hybrid regime, which is also called by many scholars authoritarian, competitive authoritarianism. This is a regime, the Algerian regime is a regime that mixes between elements of democracy and elements of authoritarianism. And where do we stand today? I think we haven't really, moved from this competitive authoritarianism when in fact the military remain the real locus of power in Algeria. There is no serious or major decision that is taken without them. They've been the military and the political military establishment, to be more concise and precise, have been piloting the succession since the beginning of the CIHRS that took the entire political military establishment off guard. And by choosing President Boun and putting in place an elected government, the military re-established the usual facade of democracy with its constitutionalism between quotes and pluralism between quotes, and protected its national reputation and internal cohesion, simply because for the military to remain in the limelight would have been a dangerous game. So it was very important for them to return behind the scene. This is what, we can say that in Algeria, the military are not governing, but they are ruling the country. Second, once the civilian facade have been established, the army rehabilitated the intelligence services. I think we need to understand what has been going on for a year now in Algeria with all those reshuffling within the military institution, within the gendarmerie, within the security apparatuses in general. I think the army rehabilitated the intelligence services that had been, pushed a bit aside under Bouteflika time, and they reshuffled the security services to maintain their hold on power. The relationship between the presidency that grew stronger under President Bouteflika and the military shifted today for the benefit of the military. And today, unlike Bouteflika that has, a deep grudge with the military, we have a president that does not cultivate any, grudge for the military and has no scores to settle with the army. Moreover, we have a president that lacks legitimacy in the eyes of a majority of the population, that largely rejected and continue to reject him in a difficult situation in which he needs the support of the military. So I do believe that what they are doing is they are securing Tebboune political survivor and of course the survivor of their own interests and the system. So the military high command with their intelligence brand and the presidency are removing, and they have been removing for the last year and a half, undesirable individual to prevent internal conflicts and deter domestic unrest. Let us here remember that the military is one of the strongest and the more organized institution within the country. And so it has a very important role in politics. So by ousting these people within, within a former Bouteflika clique, within the military as well, they are trying to put an end and avoid the recurrence of internal conflicts within the institution, and they are trying to pacify the institution, with the Iraq that wants a change of leadership, a deteriorating economic situation as a result of the pandemic, but also of the crash in oil prices that hit in Algeria in the mid of 2014, and with the pandemic that has aggravated the situation that was already very fragile. You know, it is very important for the military and the political establishment to maintain, you know, this facade of homogeneity, even though there is factions and there is internal conflict. But today, when we talk about repression, and one of the speakers said that we are seeing an unprecedented level of repression, I am going to differ a bit, and I'm going to, you know, place things into their place. Today, there is repression, of course, and I am not going to minimize what's going on. This is huge, and this is bad, and this is dangerous, and we should keep an eye on it. However, I don't think it is unprecedented. When the coup happened in 1992, the military went ballistic, literally, on the FIS supporters and on civilians. Let us remember here that one of the first decisions of the HCE back then was to open 7 camps in the desert, and where they put 40,000 supposedly militants of Le Front Islamique du Salut. And so we are here in a different situation when you can see that the regime has been, you know, in a learning curve. They do know that having the same way in repression people is going to be counterproductive. And so today they are not using the same tactic. I would say, you know, while in the 90s the regime used to have recourse immediately to ballistic, heavy-handed violence, today, you know, they are mixing between different modes of repression. We've seen, for instance, entire weeks, I remember I was in Algiers, we've seen entire weeks during the marches of Friday when even the police presence were very minimal. So they are adaptive. They go and they are vacillating between, you know, repression with jails and using the judiciary, but also, you know, they have those plethora of vague and elastic laws to arrest people, to arrest anyone, as a matter of fact. They've been arresting, academics, they've been arresting activists, journalists, and so on and so forth. And we have also adaptive methods. So they go from soft repression to attrition. We've seen attrition in recent weeks, attrition, which means, you know, we've seen weeks and weeks without anything going on. And they are just, sometimes we feel that they are waiting for the Iraq to fade away. One thing that we also notice, and that is very important to keep in mind, you know, today the Algerian regime is marshalling other security forces to do the dirty job, if I may say. Today, for instance, they marshal the police to do it, and the repression is mainly conducted by the police, not by the military. And I think this is, for them, this is a strategic move, because they do not want to jeopardize, to put in jeopardy the national reputation of the military and the internal cohesion of the military. Because let us here remember that despite the Iraq calling for a civilian state, not a military state, most of the time within the slogans of the Iraqis, we can feel that the people make a difference between the military institution as a whole and those that they call the generals. So within the institution, it is some personalities, high-profile generals that are targeted. So the institution is cognizant of that and doesn't want to jeopardize its national reputation. So depending on the situation, they have mixed mode, you know, they have been using tolerance, concession, sometimes attrition, and which is basically the ability of opponents to neutralize the tactical innovation through effective tactical counter innovation. They've been also using digital repression. This is very important. You know, there was this very beautiful piece in Foreign Affairs called "The Digital Dictators," in which Algeria, I think, is one of these regimes, you know, that they marshaled also electronic flies, and they've been, you know, doing smearing campaign on activists, against activists, and so on and so forth. But not to be long, because I believe we don't have that much time, I would say that there is a substantial risk for the regime to upgrade authoritarianism in Algeria today. We are in an escalation, and my fear is that while we've been, you know, in a hybrid regime mixing between these two elements of authoritarianism and democracy, today we are seeing, you know, an upgrading in authoritarianism. In any case, we are today in a phase where civil-military relationships are in the benefits of the military. And I am scared that because of the economic situation that is worsening by the day, Algerians are already hurting by the financial, the difficult financial outlook. As you know, we say, usually these kind of regimes, they use the carrot and the stick. Sometimes they use both, depending on the juncture. In 2011, the Algerian regime used both the carrot by handing a very generous handout, Lancege was one of them, and buying social peace. But today the carrot is no longer available, and what is remaining there is the stick. And unfortunately, we are in a country where the security apparatuses are pretty strong. They've been upgraded. Let us remember here that Algeria is the first importer of weapons in Africa. This is a military that has been, you know, upgrading its arsenal. The police also during 20 years of Bouteflika have been strengthened. And so the option, I would say, and I would end on that, the option of coercion remains open, and within this difficult economic outlook, I am afraid that you know, when the current won't be available anymore, with today, you know, we have depleted exchange reserves. In 2013, Algeria has something like $194 billion of exchange reserves. Today, they are standing up at 42 billion. They are melting, and they are being used also for the pandemic, but also to buy the new clientele of the regime. And so I am afraid that we will continue to see this escalation in repression and violence. Thank you.